Perfect. Right. Okay. Session 2 will be fantastic. Welcome to session 1. This is where everything starts. So thanks very much, everyone, for bearing with me. So the two quotes that I always like to start with and really makes me think is the first one is the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. Because the first quote that was given to me years and years and years ago that I always remember is all behavior is communication. All behavior is communication. So I find that fundamentally important to really remember to use whenever I choose to. Because when it comes to communicating, then obviously there's so many barriers that we face on a daily, individual, personal, commercial, corporate, you name it, type of situation. And that's to do with all sorts of barriers that we face. This is a global economy. We live in multicultural societies, and that is just changing every day. We are getting more diverse societies, which is excellent. We are getting more and more opportunities, but it's also throwing up significant barriers and challenges to get over, such as obviously there's language and different cultures, but then we have other things such as how emotion interferes in things, how we feel about things or about people, our stress levels. So how we experience a discussion, how we experience the thing that we are discussing, can be changed according to the level of stress that we have. And of course, stress can be good to get us out of bed, up to really good to make us perform at peak performance, but then it can put us into overwhelm and maybe burnout. And of course, then we're not in listening mode, we're not actively listening. So it completely changes how we experience the thing that we are being communicated to or trying to communicate to other people. Then, of course, we have these different learning styles because not everybody communicates the same as us. Communication, what is it? Communication is basically coding. It's like the old Enigma machine from World War II. What we all have is our own inbuilt coding Enigma machines in here. And when we communicate, we are basically coding, sending a coded message out, and then we're expecting the other person to have a similar Enigma machine up here so that they can decode our message and get the message when it comes to what we say and how we say it. And of course, that doesn't always work because when you take away body language, when you take communication down to its rawest form, and you think about WhatsApp, emails, and whatever system you use, where there's no verbal communication going on, then we lose tone, we lose body language, and we've got just the words themselves. And I'm sure, well, I'm hoping that you're like me and you've occasionally sent an email with the best of intents, positive intent, and then you've got an email back sometime saying, "What do you mean by that? How could you possibly say such a thing?" Or words to that effect. And it's interesting how, when it comes to learning styles, that people can read the same message and come out with completely, or the same words and come out with a completely different message. And then, of course, underlying everything is our motivations. Where are we just on today? Where are you today? Are you in a zone that's really focused and ready to learn? Or do you have other things going on in your mind? Are you thinking about work that you need to attend to, a report that you have to finish off, research, study, or anything else? Or maybe something in your personal life that affects safety, stability, or anything else. So motivations underlie everything. Um, I always find we're not going to talk about it at all, really, because I don't have the time. But I always find mindfulness, mindful communication, is incredibly helpful when you choose to communicate with impact, with influence. So have a look at mindfulness as a wee bit of homework when you want to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at listening, because again, where do we start? Well, it's not about us getting our message over. It's about us being great listeners at first, so that we can build the data. We know what we're dealing with. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to test your skills, your listening skills at this moment in time. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to listen for 3 minutes to this chap that's on the video that's going to pop up in a second. And I'd like you to put onto the chat exactly the time that you have tuned out, zoned out, or a different thought has entered your head about, and I'm trying to use clean language as much as possible and not influence your thoughts, but I'd like you to put onto the chat the number, as you can see, there's a timer there in the bottom left, where you just lose focus, you lose concentration. So what I'm going to do now, just very quickly, is I'm just going to grab a screen over to my screen so that I can leave you with the PowerPoint. Here we go. And so I can see the chat, and here we go. 3 minutes.
This is a 3-minute attention span test, 180 seconds. And all you have to do is stay focused, completely focused on me and what I'm saying for 3 whole minutes, to my voice and nothing else, just this boring frame, this boring ginger-bearded Irishman. That's all you have to do is focus on that. And if at any point you become distracted, you become unfocused, you start thinking about something else, something you have to do in the real world, an email you have to get back to online, or a notification that you want to check, or another video you want to see, or you start second screening, or you, by the way, what you were about to do, scroll below to check out the comments, you have failed. Okay, take note of when something like that happens, when your mind becomes distracted, when you start to stop listening to me and you start fluttering away in your mind. Take note of the timestamp there on the on-screen counter. What second was it that that occurred? Now, College Humor did a similar test. I've made lots of videos on social media addiction and how the brain can affect our minds and how we become more and more distracted and how it affects our attention span as we flutter from one website, one blog, one social media network, one email, one video to the next. You go online, you go on for a specific purpose, you end up doing 8 other things you hadn't planned to. And your brain becomes conditioned and wired to behave that way in the real world. So when you're having a conversation with somebody in the real world and you find yourself wandering, you can't focus on a movie, you can't focus on a book, you can't focus on your work, you become distracted, you start to procrastinate. All of these things are bad habits we pick up online. Can you stay focused? Are you still focused with me here? Or have you scrolled down? Have you clicked away? Have you scrubbed along the video bar to see if there's going to be a big explosion at the end of the video? There isn't. And we're up to 1 minute, 36 seconds. So when you see big YouTubers who employ all these special effects and all these shouty videos and jump cuts and sound effects and all this visual and auditory stimulation, the reason that that's done is not just because it's become a kind of a standard way of operating on YouTube, but also because it's a great way of keeping you focused, and a kind of Pavlovian dog. You're constantly getting these rewards all the time at you, and you stay focused and you become entertained. But then when you click away from that video, you come, what did I just watch? What was the content of the video? What was the purpose of that video? And so there's no real content of this video. It just exists for itself. It exists to see if you can make it to 180 seconds without clicking away, without becoming unfocused in your mind. How difficult is that? Is it excruciating for you to do that for 3 minutes? Because you're like, Dave, I've got better things to be doing. I need to. That's all I ask, is just for you to stay with me for 3 whole minutes to the end of this video. You've got 30 seconds left. If you've made it this far, you've done pretty well. If you can make it all the way to the end, share this video with somebody else and ask them if they can pass this attention span test, because you are almost there. If you've done this far, you're almost there. You got only 10 seconds, just over 10 seconds to go, and you're nearly there. That's it. That's all you have to do for 3 whole minutes. And there's hope for your attention span yet.
There we go. So I didn't see anything on the chat. So my presumption is that everybody suck. Oh no, here we go. We've got Joanna at 59 there. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Joanna. So we had somebody that didn't quite make it there to the full bit, which is great, which is, that's what we expect. It's really painfully difficult to focus. There's a commonly held belief that the brain's concentration span is 20 minutes. It's commonly said so many times. And whilst that may have some truth in it, the whole point about that small 3-minute video is it's quite excruciatingly painful sometimes to listen to somebody for 59 seconds, never mind 3 minutes. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what energy you have to put in and focus you have to put in when you concentrate to actively listen. Now I'm going to ask you something. Active listening, my presumption is that we're all very, very good at active listening. However, what I'd like to understand is Thinking about active listening, let's say, and I'd like you to again to put onto the chat your responses. When we are actively listening, and say we've been talking together for a wee bit about just general things, and I start telling you about an issue or a problem that I have, what do you start immediately thinking about? Could you put your responses, please, on the chat? Or feel free to unmute, but the chat would be great. If I start telling you about an issue or a problem that I have, what will you immediately, where do your thoughts immediately go to? What do you start thinking about? Anybody like to say anything there? If I've experienced the same problem, fantastic. How to fix it? Is it relevant to me? Potential solutions, the solution. There we go. There we go. This is exactly it. Thank you very much, everybody. This is exactly the answers that we get all the time. Emma, I probably try to think of a solution, but then catch myself and start thinking about your emotions. Oh, I like that. That's excellent. Yeah, because of course everything's based in feeling, empathy, which translates to in feeling. That's what the word means. Sarah, the circumstances around the problems. There we go. So basically what happens then is once we start thinking about the solution, potential solutions, if I've experienced the same problem, is this relevant to me? What's happened to your listening at that point? What you'll probably find is that your active listening has just paused for a minute and you've gone into, oh yes, I wonder, when did I, and I'm just sending my brain off to find when I had the same sort of problem so that I can help fix it and potential solutions and think about the person's emotions. But when you're doing that, that's when we switch off. So this is a very natural thing and it's called solution-based listening. So it's something to be aware of. It's really difficult to practice. It's really difficult to practice and to be present. And this is why mindfulness comes into communication, to actually stay present, because you are, my presumption, I could be wrong, but my presumption is that you are caring and you are compassionate people. Therefore, you care about your friends, your colleagues, your family, your neighbors, etc. So when somebody tells you about a problem that they have, that you automatically go to, how can I help them? How can I help them? The trouble with that is when you do that, we switch off the listening. And when we switch off the listening, there may be a little nugget. There may even be a golden nugget that we miss. So it's really important to stay present and to really listen with that person, and to be like Emma was saying about the emotional side of it, in feeling, to be in feeling with the person in front of you. This is practiced a lot with social workers, and social workers are trained to specifically listen without solution-based listening. So they have to listen to the person in front of them all the way through what they are saying before they write notes, before they have a conscious thought, and to control the subconscious, the unconscious thoughts as much as they possibly can. It's impossible to not have thoughts, of course it is, but social workers are trained to do it. Therefore, we can train ourselves to do it. So how do we do it? We're paying attention. We're switching off the judgment. We are switching into empathy, as Emma said. We will then reflect. We will clarify. We use paraphrasing. Why is paraphrasing? I'm going to ask you a question again. Please put your answers on the chat. Why is paraphrasing a particularly effective method of communication and indeed influencing? The chat box on the right-hand side, please. That would be superb. Yes, if you can do that. All the messages to me, that would be fantastic. Thank you. So why is paraphrasing one of the best things that we can do when communicating? And I'm just going to have a quick drink of tea. Cheers, everybody. Good morning. Excellent, Emma. Absolutely reassures the person that they have been heard. That's one of the rawest, basest things that we all need to know that we are being listened to, because as Anya said, it shows understanding, and it shows understanding in a different way, because we are not repeating, we are talking back, explaining, confirming that we have understood, as Mark said, exactly but in our own words. Because, of course, we have these two Enigma machines that are not the same. They are not the same. Therefore, we have different mixed messaging going on all the time. In fact, the most the what I've come to believe and realize through experience over the last decade is how we communicate is how we manage to communicate is actually incredible. As Sarah says, it can help give clarity. Um, don't think about this when we don't do it mindfully, when we don't think about how we are listening and what words we are using, because the words that we are using will impact We are back. Can somebody just let me know that you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear and see you now. So is technology the biggest barrier to communication?
Thank you. Right. Okay, I'm going to carry on regardless. So I do apologize for this. I have no idea what's happening, but let's share the screen. So I just need to just very quickly get this screen over to here, get back to my PowerPoint slide deck. There we go. And I will share the screen. Here we go. Right. So fingers crossed you should be seeing the slide deck again. What's the time? Wonderful. Paul, thank you so much. Here we go. This, you know what, tech is fantastic when it works, and sometimes we have issues, but this is all about communication. All behavior is communication, and it's how we deal with all of these things that determines our success. So there's a couple of acronyms that we're going to work with today, and one of those acronyms is just wait. Hang on a second, just wait. And this is a really great one to remind me, Sean, do you really need to say what you're saying? The wait basically just stands for, why am I talking? Why am I talking? What is the reason? And here, it just, if you look at the flow chart, it's very easy, it's very simple. And basically what it's saying is, do you want to chat? Do you want to say something because of your ego? Because you want other people to know that you knew as well? Because you need people to know that you knew as well? Or do you not need to say anything? Are you okay? And this is where the emotional side combines with the logical side. Are you okay? Are you in control with yourself enough to not have to speak, to repeat, to say something that would not add to the conversation? So WAIT is a very, very handy acronym to really make what you say more powerful. There's an old saying again, walk softly and carry a big stick. Walk softly and carry a big stick. And in communication and communication for impact, what that has always said to me, and people have always said, you're a bit of a reflector, aren't you, Sean? You're a wee bit quiet. But that's because what I always do is, and you'll see me, and I've done this during our sessions today, I will sit here and I'll have my finger over my lip. And that is my body language reminder for me to shut up and to listen. So this is part of my active listening routine that I've taught myself over the last, well, I can't tell you how many years because I'm not young anymore. So what I'll do is I'll sit there and I will listen to as many different people as I possibly can before I start speaking. Because for me, it's important that I don't let my feelings override the logic, the data, what the outcome that I need to get. And this is what the second session is about, how to gain consensus, influencing. So I'll be sitting there just listening to everybody, mostly just sat like this, nice and comfortably, and I'll have this little finger just over my lips. That's a physical reminder to my brain to shut up, Sean, listen. So this is what I do. And then I'll listen to Philip and Paul and Sarah and everybody else speak. And then that's when, okay, I've picked up on something. I can make a reference to a person. I can make a reference to something that somebody said, and it will make an impact. What I'm saying doesn't just need to be said. It's not something that's echoing somebody else. It's a form of genuine thought that will make some form of positive impact in the communication that we are having together. Hopefully that may help you in the future. Wait. It also helps with time spent in meetings as well, because think about it. If everybody did this in the meetings, then we'd probably cut down meeting time by about half or 3/4. So practice wait, take it to your teams, take it to your colleagues, have a chat with them, see what they think. But it's a quite a powerful methodology. Now, communicating with impact, I have a little chart for you here, and this is the most important thing. Let's say that you're going to walk away with today. Let's say that you have a purpose to your communication, and there should always be a purpose. It can be emotional, it can be happiness, it can be wanting something, to discuss something, going on holiday. That's just in my mind because I'm 7 weeks and 5 days to my first holiday in 3 years. So it's kind of right there at the front of my brain. But why? Why am I going to communicate? What is the reason for my communication? What do I want from that person? What do I want? What's my desired outcome? First of all, my presumption is that it's going to be our desired outcome. What's the win-win that I can get out of this? If I think about that, think about my intention, I'm also thinking about the other person's intention. So again, this is where emotional intelligence, mindfulness plays its part. We are being present. We are reading the other person. We're reading their body language. We're listening to the words that they use. We're listening to their tone to detect the level of stress in their voice, happiness, enjoyment, anger, frustration. So we're reading all those things. So when we communicate, we've got our intention. So our intention is always to do it positively. It's always to do it from as win-win a position as possible. The message. What's your message? Have clarity. The phrase that I always use is communicating with clarity. Communicating with clarity. Not communication, not talking, not listening, not anything else. What it comes down to is communicating with clarity. Do you get your message over? And do you do it concisely? Concisely. We talked about the person, we talked about considering them in the process. Who are they? What, as all those barriers that we talked about at the start, you know, language, everything else, culture, emotional state, all of those things, you know, and gosh, all the barriers go to political affiliation, level of education. Oh, there's so many different filters that come into the barriers, the challenges, but that we can also use as well to our advantage. So we make sure that we use the language, the words that the other person is using. We use clean, what we call clean language. So what we don't do is we don't infer things to them. We don't say things like, oh, you must, you should, you ought to, because then you are communicating. If you want to influence somebody to do something, they're possibly the words that you want to use. It depends on the situation. But what you can do, the most powerful form of communication, is to ask questions and combine it with body language so that you can gain consensus, you can communicate with impact, and you can get the person to do what it is that you want them to do, such as what I'm doing right now. So this is when we turn body language really on. We turn the dial up to 11 for anybody that's seen Spinal Tap, and we go into full-on body language mode. So what I've just been doing there is a really, really old body language method. So first of all, what you got from me was the open-handed palm gesture. So I'm just looking at the camera to make sure that you can see me and see what I'm doing. So first of all, wherever you are, I'd like you to do this, even if you're in the office. Nobody will know what you're doing. Don't worry, just do this along with me. Ready? If you take your arms out like this. I can't see you doing this, but I trust that you are all doing this. So everyone take their arms out, because normally when we communicate, our arms aren't pinned to our sides and we feel free. So some of us are gesticulatory people, and we like to communicate with our hands, and some of us don't, and some of us don't use our hands at all. But to communicate with impact, to really get your message over, then what we can do is combine all this stuff that I'm doing now just a little bit more than usual. So what I'd like you to do is, if you take your arms out, to communicate virtually, this is one of the key secrets of communicating virtually. Pin your arms to your sides. Now, don't let your arms go from your sides. You'll see now that I am within the window. I am in your window of vision. And now I'm pinning my arms to the sides. I'm not letting them go, but I've got the use of my hands. And what I'm doing is I'm doing the open-handed palm gesture so that you can see what I'm doing. And you see exactly how we use it. The open-handed palm gesture is, I don't have anything in my arms. I have no weapons, no daggers, nothing else. I'm not hiding anything. You can trust me. Goes back to Middle Ages. We've evolved to work subconsciously with this thing means, oh, trust Sean. He's being honest. So if we do that, that's one level of body language. The second level of body language, which was my face, what I was doing with you then, to get you to agree with me. And this happens on a subconscious level. It's incredibly powerful. And do try this. And it works on kids as well. If any parents out there, try this on your kids. and don't tell them I said so, because they'll just get on social media and make my life a misery. But what we do is the open-handed palm gesture, and as we're doing that, then we take our eyebrows up, wide eyes, pupils up there, and we start nodding. Is that okay for you? Can you do that for me? Can you do that for yourself? So as we're nodding, the other person starts nodding away with you and say, yes, yes, Sean, yes, I don't know what I'm agreeing to yet, but I'm nodding away with you. So this is part of a body language NLP technique, neuro-linguistic programming technique called priming. So we are priming the person to enter a positive state so that they will be more inclined to agree with us than disagree. It takes a lot more power and energy to stop doing this and to go, oh, no, and realize what it is that I'm actually saying. So we're doing a little bit of priming. We're making people believe that we are honest. We are open honest, because that's what you are. I do this for the power of good, not for the power of bad. The trouble is, I've got to say this, when we communicate with impact, it can be done to manipulate as much negatively as it can be to influence positively. So my presumption is that we are all superheroes here, and we wear our pants on the outside of our trousers, just like Superman, Wonder Woman, and everybody else. And that's what we're going to use it for. So practice that at home, pin your arms to your sides, then you'll keep your arms inside this window that we've learned to work with in the last few years. And also you can communicate with tremendous impact and get people to agree with you even before they know what they're agreeing with. So there we go. So that is activating, that's engaging the receiver. That's what we do. There's loads and loads of different ways to do this. Clarify. So that's where we talked about paraphrasing. That's where we talked about asking questions. Thank you, Anya. Thank you so much. I'll give you a person as well. I'll put it onto the chat. I've got a small video. You'll have to tell me whether I'm not sure whether the audio is going to be loud enough, but one of the great chaps that I follow in body language. I'll give you two, actually. I'll give you two fantastic people on the chat. So the first one is Mark Bowden. And he's a master, an international expert on body language, talks all over the world. He's also very funny, and he comes over very, very well, as you would expect. So YouTube is a brilliant repository of information and learning. So go onto YouTube, just put in Mark Bowden body language, and you'll come up with loads of great videos about him. The other person that I'd like you to have a look at is an American psychologist called Amy Cuddy. And she is amazing. And the experiments, the research that she does on power posing, communicating with impact and influence are fantastic. So again, I'm going to give you another practice. So again, communicating with impact. I'm just going to stretch my microphone. Imagine that we're standing up. So this has to work when you're standing up. Now you're going to do this for 2 minutes. And what you need to do is you need to stand up, and you can do this anywhere. Before a meeting, it's fantastic to do. What you're going to do is you're going to raise your testosterone level by a very, very significant amount. We all have testosterone in our body. And the best way to do this, the easiest way to do this, is to do what's been termed the Wonder Woman pose. So this is to get the arms and to put them, here we go, to put them on your hips and just to stand here for 2 minutes. That's all you need to do. So you have to be standing because it puts the body into a form of stress position, but it's a positive. You put your arms on your hips and you just stand there for 2 minutes, and you can do this in the toilet. You can do this in the office. You can do this in the kitchen. You can do it anywhere. You can't stop it happening. It works automatically with the physical body. It releases an increase in testosterone and you feel more power. Now, if you watch her videos, you'll see the results. This isn't just a, well, maybe if you do this, it might work. This is absolutely a proven method. So this will help you communicate with impact more. It will give you more control. It will help to make you feel more relaxed, and it will help you to gain clarity over what you're communicating, how you're communicating, and the same with the other person. So hopefully that's a wee bit of fun exercises there for you to take away, some practical stuff. So we're going to finish off with a little bit of body language. Now, again, I've got a very short video. This is Mark Bowden. On the chat, I'm not sure, the audio sounds a little bit low to me on the video. So please do let me know on the chat if you can't hear it and we'll move past it. We don't necessarily need it, but I just wanted you to have a wee experience of Mark Bowden.
Often you need to engage people immediately by winning trust with them immediately. That way they know they can move into your message and accept your message. So what's the universal gesture that wins trust immediately? By universal, I mean cross-culture, cross-time, cross any sexual barriers. What's going to win any human being over immediately and know they can approach your message? It's gestures in the truth plane. The truth plane is the horizontal plane of gesture that comes out of the navel area here. So when I gesture in that plane, palms open, showing you I have no tools, no weapons, and that I'm open in this more vulnerable belly area where my center of gravity is, you instinctually know that I can be trusted and approached. There's no predators around, and certainly I'm not a predator. So when you need to win trust immediately, gesture in the truth plane, and you'll find that people approach you and your message.
There we go. So hopefully that was okay and you managed to hear that okay. But I thought that would be a nice experience just to kind of close off on. So the most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said. 93% of our communication is body language. That does not mean that our words are not important. It's how it all works together. It's your body language, the words and the tonality of your voice, the music, the magic of your voice. It's the words, the pace, the pitch, the volume. It's all of that combined with what you choose to do with this thing here. So YouTube is just the best place for it. There are other short courses that you can take on platforms such as Coursera and Future Learn, which I'll just put into the chat. There we go. So basically, that brings us to a close for today. I just wanted to leave a couple of minutes spare just for any questions. So does anybody have any questions? I hope you enjoyed our short dynamic session today. Are there any questions? Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's great to get feedback like that. I really appreciate it. Thank you. One last tip for virtual as well, whilst I'm just monitoring the chat. You're seeing me now looking straight at you. That's because I'm looking straight at the webcam, which is really disconcerting and takes a lot of practice. I'm also just overemphasizing my features just that little bit more so that our communication comes over more virtually. Fabulous. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, it's, this is a virtual world now. We're communicating all over the world. So yeah, anything virtual is brilliant. Mark, thank you. Paul, thank you very much. Emma, wonderful. Sarah, thank you so much. So any questions, please pop them there. Amy, thank you again. Anything else, more than happy to talk about. I'll stay here for another minute. Chris, thank you. And if you've finished, then you are very welcome to go. And hopefully I'll see you in the second session. But thanks very much, everybody. Thanks, Amy. Bye for now. Okay, I think that's about it. So for anybody still remaining, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it today. Had a great time. I'm going to start the next session in just about 5 minutes. There we are. So I'll be leaving now and I will be joining the next session. Sarah, I will hopefully see you there, and fingers crossed we have a bit of a smoother ride, but hey, let's go for it. Thanks a lot, everybody.